Welcome to the Home Downsizing Show. My name is Ben Souchek, your host and the owner and founder of Home Downsizing Solutions. With the Home Downsizing Show, I want to provide you the information and resources to make the downsizing of your house stress and hassle-free. So sit back and enjoy the show. Thank you for joining us.
Would like to introduce to you my friend and special guest in studio, Mr. Ben Souchek. He's the owner and operator of a fantastic company called Home Downsizing Solutions. And Ben, welcome back to Senior Care Live.
Good afternoon, Steve. Thank you for having me today, and hope we can give your listeners a lot of great information here today. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And I know sometimes, we've had to do this remote, and we had to do it remote for a long time over COVID. But it's so nice to have you in person. So it's always great to see you in person here. So really enjoy having you in the studio. And so, Ben, for any of our listening audience who are not familiar with Home Downsizing Solutions, tell us about the services that you offer.
Sure. What I like to say is that we do everything that we can to make it stress and hassle-free for a person that wants to downsize or move from their home that they may have owned for 20, 30, 40 years to senior living arrangement of any kind. Again, whether that's independent living, whether that's just a smaller home itself, whether it's assisted living or longer-term care, we can do everything to help a person get from point A to point B, whether that's introducing them to moving companies or introducing them to services like your own. And primarily, though, our primary service is that we will step in and buy the house in its current condition and close and take possession according to whatever schedule they want, that the homeowner wants to have that happen. And we've even done that in as little as 24 hours from looking at a house.
24 hours. That is quick. Oh, my gosh.
As soon as the title company can check title and prepare closing paperwork, we can close.
So is that usually the funnel or the bottleneck is just you're dependent on the title company turnaround time, basically?
That's correct. Just to make sure we have clear title and all the paperwork is done correctly, then we can wire funds and close anytime.
And we've had one of your clients on the program previously. It's been a few months back, and she was saying it was just amazing. It was a very short period of time, and just money turned up in their account. And they said it was, if you could imagine this, selling their house, she said, was so simple. It was you made it so easy.
That's our goal, is to make it as easy and, again, stress and hassle-free as we can. And not to worry anybody, even if we close in a few days, we don't have to take possession that quickly. That's one of the great benefits that a lot of people like, is we can buy the house very quickly, but allow the person to stay in the house for 30, 60, sometimes 90 days or more, so that they can make that transition according to their schedule.
See, and I think that is awesome, because how many times have I worked with the family and frankly, I'm talking to them about maybe moving to assisted living or some level of memory care, maybe even long-term care, or sometimes a continuing care retirement community, and they need the funds from their house to make that next step. And so the options are you borrow money from someone you know, never the most comfortable thing in the world. You go out and you get a bridge loan. Okay, well, you have to qualify for it and jump through hoops and pay fees and interest and all kinds of stuff. Or you can sell your home as is to Ben Souchek and Home Downsizing Solutions, get the money in hand, and then you can remain in your home for 30, 60, maybe upwards of 90 days while you're waiting on your assisted living apartment or long-term care room or maybe independent living apartment in a CCRC to become available. And that way, they've used their own equity to fund that move without moving immediately. That's beautiful.
That's correct. So it removes that catch-22 of a person on one hand, if on one hand they want to sell, but they don't know where they're going, they have a good idea, but they don't know where they're going, they can get their house sold so they can make that transition. And on the other hand, if they have an apartment that has opened up, but then they're worried about having a vacant house that they need to worry about with vacant house insurance, with utilities, with all the things that can come along with a vacant house, then we can remove all of those issues.
It was amazing with and you're right, there's just something about when you're living in a house, I mean, you're part of this, almost this living, breathing entity, if you will, and that sounds overly dramatic, but when we moved my grandparents out of their house, it just became this structure. And all of a sudden, just things started just happening to it. I mean, a squirrel got in the house and the gutter fell off and just stuff happened. And none of that stuff happened when they were living in the house. And there's something to a vacant house. It could be a target of criminals because they see no one's living there. So maybe that might be an easy target for someone with bad thoughts or mischievous deeds that they might be thinking about. Also, during the wintertime, we had a pipe break. Because we didn't keep the heat quite warm enough in the basement, and so we had a frozen pipe, and so stuff happens if you're not living in that house.
That's correct. Like I always tell people, houses do not get better with age when they're vacant. Like that. Yeah. And that's another reason. That's why insurance companies, if they know that a house is sat vacant for 30 days and there's a claim, they will not cover that claim.
Oh wow.
So
I didn't know that.
If a house sits vacant for 30 days, you need special insurance, which we put on our houses. That's 3 or 4 times more expensive than just regular house insurance because insurance companies know that if there's someone living in that house, it's a lot less likely to have problems than a vacant house sitting there.
They're going to catch the frozen pipe, and they're going to be able to turn the water off relatively quickly versus sitting there flooding the place for a month or whatever.
That's correct.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that vacant house insurance is that much more expensive?
Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness. I didn't know that.
And depending on other issues, it's a lot more difficult to get vacant house insurance than just normal insurance as well.
So what we're saying is you can avoid all of that very simply by reaching out to Ben Souchek with Home Downsizing Solutions. And you can visit online at homedownsizingsolutions.com, or maybe better yet, just call Ben directly. Here's the phone number, 402-450-0199. That's 402-450-0199, and you'll reach Ben directly. And then, if you end up working with Ben and you sell your home as is for cash, and then you're able to stay there for a period of time while you're waiting on your independent living, assisted living, memory care, or long-term care community to open up and have you move. You've got cash in hand. You don't have to worry about all of these things and the very expensive unoccupied house insurance, whatever it's called. Is that what it's called?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, all right. We just made that up. So unoccupied house insurance. That's what we're going to call it today on the program. But anyway, you don't have to worry about all that stuff. 402-450-0199. And Ben, everyone's talking about the interest rates are going up. Inflation is going crazy. I hate going to the gas station now. And it's not going to break the bank, but there's something very painful about it. Used to cost me about $45 to $50 to fill my vehicle. Now it's $80 every time. And maybe $85. That does not make me happy. And then inflation is going crazy. Interest rates are coming up. How is that impacting the real estate market?
Oddly, right now it hasn't done a whole lot.
It hasn't caught up yet.
There's still a lot of demand for houses right now just because there has been a shortage. And this is just my opinion. Obviously, I'm not an expert. If I had a crystal ball, I wouldn't be sitting here right now, of course.
Yep.
But there's been so much demand that I think the last few months, as interest rates have started going up, people are even a little more aggressive on buying houses.
Okay.
Because I think they see interest rates continuing to go up, and they don't want to miss out on what rates we have already.
Yeah, that makes sense. Actually, and you would think it'd be the opposite, but that actually makes sense. There's a shortage of houses available. There are more buyers than sellers. And if I buy it today versus a month from now, I might save 0.5%, 0.75% of interest on a 15 or a 30-year loan. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, and the change in interest rates is going to have, I think, quite an impact because the Federal Reserve has only made one or two ticks up in the last 30 to 60 days, if I'm correct. I apologize. I don't have my exact stats in front of me.
Yeah, that's okay.
But one thing that I've read in the past couple of years, 2 to 3 years, in general, house prices have gone up about 50%, at least in a lot of areas. And when you couple that with long-term interest rates on a typical 30-year mortgage have gone from below 3% just several months ago to now 5.5%. To some calculations, that's about halved the buying power of a lot of home buyers.
Yeah. And
like I mentioned, the interest rates have been historically low, so that hasn't impacted all of them. But the home buying power has been reduced a lot in the last couple of years, especially with the current or the recent interest rate bumps. And that's before the Federal Reserve's really signaled that they're going to do more interest rate hikes this year alone. And I think a lot of people think they're going to have to in order to get inflation under control.
Yep.
And my own personal opinion, at some point that's going to affect home prices, no matter where you are.
It has to.
It has to.
Yeah. I think there's some psychology to this as well. How long have we been used to dirt cheap money? 3-4%. That was normal for a long time. And now all of a sudden, 5%. Oh my gosh. Right? Well, if you look at it historically, 5.5%, 6%, that's not a terrible deal. I remember when my parents and my grandparents had 13% mortgages. Okay. Now that's on the opposite end of the extremes here. That was back in the Jimmy Carter recession days,
70s or early 80s,
late 70s, early 80s, right in there, right. And I think we're headed there again, unfortunately. But the bottom line is, I think that psychology of no, it's too expensive, I can't afford it. Well, it's not. We were very spoiled with these 3 and 4% interest rates, and I think they're gone, and I think they're probably gone for a long time. But still, 5 or 6, not horrible. I don't think.
If they would stay at 5 or 5.5, I would tend to agree with you.
Yeah.
But listening and reading what some of the economists are saying that the Federal Reserve is going to have to do with interest rates in order to get inflation under control, I think the general consensus is they're going to be going above the 5.5% rate, and nobody knows what that is. But at some point, that's going to have an effect on home prices because if buyers can only afford a certain dollar amount per month, monthly payment, that's what a lot of people buy homes at. Is not necessarily what the price of the home is. It's what can I afford monthly. Yeah.
What is their cash flow going to support? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that makes sense.
That's going to, I think, affect people, especially when you take into account like you mentioned, the price of gas, the price of food, everything else. A person only has so much money on a monthly basis to spend, and that's going to affect a lot of people, I would think, at some point.
All right. Speaking today with Mr. Ben Souchek, owner-operator of Home Downsizing Solutions. You can reach out to Ben at 402-450-0199 or online at homedownsizingsolutions.com. And if you're thinking about selling your house and downsizing, maybe you're moving to assisted living or long-term care or memory care, maybe you have the responsibility for an aging parent and they've been aging in place, but now it's time to make that move. And you're like, what are we going to do with mom's house? Oh my goodness, it needs some repair. It definitely needs some updates. We have all kinds of stuff in the house. We don't know what we're going to do. Your head is swimming. You don't want to deal with with the traditional real estate market and people coming in and out of the house and having to make $40,000 or $50,000 of upgrades and repairs and everything else just to get the house market ready. If you want to just walk away for a fair and reasonable price and make this whole transaction very simple, that's where Ben Souchek comes in. Is that correct, Ben?
That's correct. That's if a person just wants to get a parent or loved one to a safer environment, or if a person just themselves have been living in the house for a long time and decides, I'm just ready to get a smaller home that somebody, or an apartment that somebody else takes care of the repairs and maintenance, and I want to do some traveling and enjoy my retirement instead of having to do all those projects around the house, then we can certainly help you out with all of those. 402-450-0199 or homedownsizingsolutions.com. And Ben, we were visiting before the program today a little bit about you're considering a name change and just something that might be maybe a little more descriptive or maybe a little more exact regarding your services. So Home Downsizing Solutions, I think it's a good name, but you've asked if the audience has some ideas on some name changes. You're certainly open to considering that. Correct, Steve. I wanted to put this out to the audience. I'm not set on a name change, but I have had a couple people mention that Home Downsizing Solutions kind of gives the idea of moving services and some of the other services that are needed when a person is downsizing, and we certainly provide concierge services to introduce a person to movers and services such as your own, Steve, in finding a place to get to. But thought if any listeners had a great idea on a more exact or precise name that might give the listener a better impression of the fact that we buy houses to make that transition very stress and hassle free, I'm willing to pay $100 if we use it.
Okay. Hey, I'm going to work hard on that one. I want to earn me $100. So I thought of one earlier and it's already taken. So
it could fill your gas tank up.
One time. A tank of gas for anyone who comes up with a great idea. All right. So, Ben, it's just been great to visit with you here today. And any parting thoughts?
I thank you for having me on again, Steve, and hopefully the listeners have learned something, or if they're considering selling a house and moving in the near future, it's something to think about as far as what things are going to be like 12, 24 months from now, and so that a person doesn't get caught in the same housing downtrend that people did in 2008 and 2009 that we talked to back then.
That's a very, very good point. So timing is everything, right?
Yes, it is.
All right. Mr. Ben Souchek with Home Downsizing Solutions, 402-450-0199. And Ben, thanks so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And if anybody'd like a free copy of my book, Home Downsizing Secrets, just give me a call. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Home Downsizing Show. For additional information and resources on home downsizing, just go to homedownsizingblueprint.com. That's homedownsizingblueprint.com. Or if you're ready to sell your house and downsize, just go to homedownsizingsolutions.com. That's homedownsizingsolutions.com. And if you have ideas to improve our show, or topics that you'd like us to cover, or have any questions that we can answer, just call our office toll free 855-291-5005. That's 855-291-5005. Thank you.